So when did the turning point come then? Because that album is released, and then
yeah.
When does the point come? Okay, I'm gonna make a new record, and where do I go from this point?
Well, the cool thing that happened was because I had kind of done this record about, I don't know, I got offered to do a show at PS1 MoMA, which is like the museum in New York. And it was totally open. You know, I had to pitch, like it wasn't totally, you know, but I was like, okay, what if I did this? And a friend was like, you should just do like a VR thing, like virtual reality thing. Like you have this on, you should make something. And so I hooked up with somebody in town. This was like pretty new. We were some of basically the first people I think to actually bring VR to both PS1 MoMA and to the Barbican.
Okay.
So it was, but it was like DIY. It was like a noise band. It was like me and like this other dude, and he was like making. It wasn't like a big firm, you know. It was like we were like collaborating and like jamming on VR and this kind of narrative, and so, you know, they're like, well, so you have a 4-hour window, and I was like, I'll play the whole time. I was like, I'll do it. I'll do a durational thing, and doing that. I just wrote a bunch of stuff, and it felt really free. Like it felt like I didn't have to do like a club show where like the whole time like, here are my brand new songs, you know, how are you, New York, you know, anything like that.
Self-promotion type.
Yeah, I didn't have to do that. I could do whatever I wanted for 4 hours, like, you know, as long as it was interesting or interesting to me. So I iterated a bunch of stuff, and I wrote a bunch of things, and I got to perform solo, and it was great. It was really good for me. And I also, because I was prepping for this show, I reached out to some people in Portland, and I was like, hey, you have a gallery, it's like a friend of mine, can I do like my warm-up show there? So then also I'm like kind of getting back in the community, I'm performing there in a way that it isn't like EMA, the band, you know, it's like I'm doing what I want, and I'm writing, and so I got to do that. I got to do a show at the New Museum for Deep Lab, and that was another thing where so I was just making a lot of work, and it was in a non-pressured way, and it was in a way that I was used to working when I used to work with Gowns, which was just like, hey, there's a show, do whatever you want.
Right.
It's not like, here's the show, play the album. So it was just really healthy for me. It was just like a really good way for me to write things. And so then I was writing a bunch of stuff for it, and I liked it.
And then the stuff that you were writing at that time, did any of it end up on the album? On Exile?
I Want to Destroy, Breathalyzer. I'm trying to remember. There was some other stuff that I was doing then too that I should listen. I don't even know. I have like an awesome like 3-hour recording that's from one of the shows that's on my iPhone somehow. And so it's like if I'm stuck somewhere, like if I'm stuck where I don't have any Wi-Fi and I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot to download any music or whatever, I'll like listen to the whole thing. I covered John Frusciante, Your Pussy is Glued to a Building on Fire. I like did spoken word aspects. It was fun. I love doing that.
And then I suppose because there is spoken word on the record, so a lot of that experimentation and then that carried over into what would become the album. Where did the themes come from? Because, because I believe that they were written about 2-3 years ago, most of it.
Yeah.
And then obviously since then a lot of stuff has happened.
A lot of stuff has happened.
But at that point for you,
if you're looking at this from the future, thank God we still exist. Thank God the world hasn't ended.
But so then, what kind of mindset were you in? Because you say it was actually quite a good period for you. Because
it was good for me artistically, but I was also still really self-exiled. But I was starting to heal a little bit more. But
for instance, you mentioned I Want to Destroy. That's the kind of the nihilistic theme.
Okay, that's true. But I mean, I was getting all that stuff out. Yeah, I mean, it was nihilistic. It was nihilistic. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Was it kind of like purging that out?
I mean, I can only say that now. You know, I can only like be like it worked because I feel better, and I'm starting to like collaborate with people more, and I'm feeling a lot freer. I'm also like off Matador, so I feel less like I have to be like a branded indie rock icon, or like, not icon, but whatever, you know? I feel like I can kind of go back and just be like, oh, you know what? I like doing this. I like doing this. But so when I was doing these performances, and I had it in my mind that I wanted to be in this shitty living room. This is like at PS1 MoMA and then also in the Barbican. We did Sacred Objects from Suburban Homes, was in the Barbican, which was really fun as well. And I'm like, okay, I need a couch, I need a coffee table, I need like some plants, I need to be kind of trashed. And for some reason I was like, this is just like, I had it in my mind that this was kind of like this generic place in America that people are living kind of quiet, desperate lives in. And I don't think I realized right away that I was recreating my own living room. Like, I pictured it somewhere else. And I don't know why it didn't click to me. It's like, no, this is your living room. You are this character. Like, this isn't someone else. And so because I had kind of been kind of in self-preservation mode and kind of like hiding myself away, I spent a lot of time inside in this like very generic apartment. Like the apartment that I live in Portland is not like a cute like house, which a lot of people in Portland do live in them. And it's not a new condo, right? It's like it's a place that feels very typical for America, which is like you have beige carpeting, you have the blinds. I don't think you see, you know, it's like cookie cutter. It's like suburban. And I don't know, go ahead.
Do you remember when you realized that you were making your own?
I don't know. I don't know if I remember. It was like so obvious at I don't know, it's so.
But in that sense then, because, well, you grew up in South Dakota, I suppose very much middle America.
Yeah.
So was it confrontational to kind of delve into that side of America and then kind of what you've experienced growing up as well?
Yeah, I mean, it felt. I mean, what I'm doing is I'm trying to, you know, describe this geography that isn't really in. It's like many people's lives, but it's not in very much media. And I think it is a little rebellious in a way. It's like, this is where the cool shit is happening. Like, this is where, because what's happening to the, like, inner cities now, which means something totally different. City centers, I guess, is what they're called. You know, you could just see it. It's just becoming like this really boring, like, quirky consumerism place.
Right.
And people are being pushed out. And you know.
Gentrification,
yeah, but not trying to use words that aren't that to describe it, I guess.
Right.
And also, like, people talk a lot about, oh, they're pushed out, people are pushed out, but they don't talk about where they go. And so it's like, where do people go? Or where do you go if you're moving from the country and you want to move into the city, but you don't have that money? You know, you don't have that city money. And it's, you know, to me, I was like, okay, it's the outer ring.
Right.
And what is the outer ring? You know, it's like, it's an economic place situation. You know, it's a geographical kind of location. But it's also, I feel like it's got its own aesthetic in a way. It's like it's almost aesthetically neutral because there's so many just like really generic things there. Yeah.
And well, let me ask this then. For instance, I'll start with the track that opens the album, 7 Years. Okay. Was that inspired by a specific idea or specific?
Yeah, I was inspired by some stuff. That's one I don't really go into the specifics of it.
I'll pick another one then. Because, well, another one that kind of stuck out for me was, and it's a song that the Gowns did, that you wrote at that point, but Always Bleeds. So Well, it's more of a general question than maybe, but do they generally come from specific moments or experiences, the tracks?
Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I guess so. Like Breathalyzer is like, I remember being a teenager, maybe I was a little older, but like going and visiting some random person like in an apartment complex like on the kind of outskirts of town. And he had had a DUI, like driving under the influence, so he had his license revoked, and then he had gotten it back maybe, but he had something on his car where you had to blow in to start the car. And I remember him being there being like, can you blow into this breathalyzer for me so that I can drive? I don't think I did it, but just like being like, whoa. So yeah.
And part of it, well, we kind of touched upon it already, but you made a score for a movie in between albums, and to me this album and your music has always been atmospheric, but for me in particular this kind of conjures, at least for me, conjured up images, and then kind of combined with the subject matter, it kind of was that a conscious thing for you to kind of create this soundscape or landscape?
Oh. I mean, a lot of times when I write, I don't... That's kind of the same thing with the couch or something. I just make it and then I only realize later. Like when I was writing, you know, I Want to Destroy or Breathalyzer. Breathalyzer, Aryan Nation, and Destroy were like the earliest songs. And Breathalyzer is what I told you. Aryan Nation is like kind of, it's about people that I knew back home, but also, you know, seeing that story through the lens of having just watched This Is England, which is about like these non-racist skinheads who some of them get radicalized through this guy who just got out of prison. And then I Want to Destroy, just, I could see, you know, the person was alone in a bedroom. And I could see that, and the world started coming together. And I pictured this place. And then I read this story in the Washington Post, and it was about the people that Dylan Roof, who was the Charleston shooter, who he stayed with before he committed it. So it's not really talking about him, which is good because I don't really want to even know that much about him. But these people just really, it was like a really amazing portrait of America and like these people who were really, really stuck in a place, and they were inside of this trailer, and the trailer had just become like the center of their universe. And like they didn't really leave, and there wasn't that many ways out, and there wasn't economic ways out, and they had used to live in a different place, but they had lost their jobs, and just kind of like this tension there. And so I read that, and I also was like, I recognized the interior of this. I recognize this place. I've been there. And so then like a week or two after that, I was improvising just vocally, just talking. I don't know, I turned the mic on, there was some music in the background, and I just said all the words for interior, or for Where the Darkness Began. So I didn't write it, I just was like, I put on the headphones, I zoned out, and then I just said it. And so, and that's kind of when this idea of place started taking shape. And then I was hanging out with a friend, and he coined the term the outer ring, which in Amsterdam makes sense because you have rings. But in the US it's not quite the same, but it's still like could kind of.
In a way, it's the fringe or kind of the periphery.
Like, exactly.
Does it? This is going to be a difficult question maybe to answer, but does it help, kind of exploring these ideas and delving into it?
You mean for me or for?
Just for yourself.
Oh yeah, like I feel. If I write a song about things, I can feel much freer of it, you know, and I can process things, I can let things go, I can understand things. Yeah, it helps a lot.
And then especially in it's not just America, but the socio-political climates the world over.
Yeah.
Does it become easier to navigate now that you've made this album?
That's such a hard question. I mean, what's going on in America is, I think, really pretty terrible. Mm. I can hope that there will be like a silver lining or a benefit or a way through. But it's hard to feel good about what's going on in America right now.
Okay. Finally then, because kind of in the description it says it's a deeply personal, confrontational but ultimately redemptive album. So where's the redemption for you?
Well, I mean, I think musically a lot of the songs are triumphant and forgiving. Like Always Bleeds, that's so triumphant, you know? 7 years is so, to me it's so healing and like forgiving. I think if you're living that lifestyle and you're feeling this kind of trapped by economic circumstances or by lack of access or by, what did I say? Economics, you know, just the feeling of being in there. I feel like having someone else describe that is validating and kind of electrifying versus like seeing things that completely ignore it. You know, like seeing beautiful Instagram posts or listening to pop songs or seeing on TV and not, there's no like recognition.
Right.
I mean, I feel better having written down and out, you know, it's like, and I think people that hear it, you know, I think they'll probably feel better, you know, being like, I'm not alone, or it helps them like take a feeling that they think is just a feeling that they've internalized, which is just like, I'm a worthless piece of shit, and putting it into an economic context, being like, whoa, okay, it's because of this, and it doesn't have to be, you know, you can kind of dismantle some of these things that are just emotions.